Okay. So good evening, everyone. Like in the morning session, we discuss about the one of the important concept to call how we can write this particular add method. So we identified how this particular add method internally it is calling it. Okay. So we'll try to identify the remaining methods. So what we are having inside this particular array list. So first we'll focus on the list interface related methods here. Now observe what I'm doing here. I'm trying to write this particular add method is completed. Now we'll try to focus more about this particular set method. Okay, how this particular set method it is working internally. So to understand this particular set method, now what I will do, al dot set method I will call. Whenever I'm trying to call this particular set method, internally it is trying to expecting same index. So again we'll identify if I'm going to give this particular 10. Now what happens internally? We need to identify here. Okay, so here I'm trying to write the EF value. Okay, now what we need to understand here, I will write this example. So I'm going to run this example here. Now you can see index, whatever the index we are providing as a 10, and it is out of bound for this particular length call 2. So right now we insert only 2 records. Okay, whenever I'm trying to insert the third record with help of this particular sets method, we are getting an exception. So why we are getting an exception? We need to understand here. Okay, so if I'm going to run this example with the debug mode, now what we can understand here. So if you can see add method, it is calling 2 times here. Now I'm calling this particular set method. So whenever I'm trying to call here, now observe carefully, I'm trying to check this particular index here. Okay, I'm trying to check this particular index here. So how it is calling internally. Okay, now you can see how this particular check index is calling internally. Whenever I'm trying to show this particular check index method, now internally we are calling so preconditions check index method, and we are passing 2 values. First one is index, second one is length method. First one is index here, second one is length method. So now if I'm going to provide this particular information inside this particular so check index method, now you can see it is trying to extending runtime exception. Okay, here we are writing condition here. Getting the point. Here we are trying to check this particular condition recording this particular exception here. Now you can see the third parameter we are calling as a so the by function. Getting the point. So by function internally it is expecting this is the generic type here. Okay, so string comma list of integers. So this is the object. Right now we are not providing anything. So simply we are trying to call it as a null here. And here what we need to understand basically. So now you can see so index less than 0. If this particular less than 0, this exception will throw. And this particular index less than like greater than or equals to this particular length here. Okay, now what you understand, this particular condition is satisfying. Because of this we are getting an exception. Getting the point. Because of this we are getting an exception here. Now why we are getting an exception? So because the set method basically we need to use within the length here. Getting the point. Within the length. If you are trying to use outside of this particular length, we are going to get an exception. So this is all about the set method here. Now it is trying to throw an exception here. But now what I will do, whenever I'm calling this particular set method, we need to read this information, replace the element at the specified position. Okay, so it is going to replace the particular element here. Only within the length only we need to use this particular set method here. Okay, this is important. So if I'm trying to use the with help of this particular capacity, it is going to throw an exception. So this is the another important example we need to understand here. Okay, for this, if I'm going to provide something like 0, if I'm trying to provide something like 0, we are not going to get any exceptions. Okay, so what is the initial value we are having? So CD, now it is replaced with this particular EF. Now you can see EF comma AB. Okay, EF comma AB we are having. So this is the another important information we need to understand here. Getting the point. This is the another important information we need to understand how this particular set method it is working internally. Okay, whenever this particular set method it is working outside of this particular length or capacity, we'll get an exception. Within the length only, we can modify the particular elements here. Okay, so what is the another method we can discuss here? Something like a remove method. So same thing, any set method we are having inside this particular collection interface. Now you can see, so we don't have any set method here. Okay, we don't have any set method. Now what I will do, I'm going to call this particular get method. Later we'll discuss about the remove method. So how we can call this particular get method? Now if I'm trying to call al dot get method, so only one method we are having. There is no overloaded concept here. Only one method we are having it. Now you can provide the index. So again, if I'm trying to providing the index as a 10 here, whenever I'm trying to providing this particular index as a 10, now you can see what happening internally. So here I will try to print this because get method is trying to returning some object here. It is trying to returning some object here. Whenever I'm trying to run this example, now you can see we are trying to get an a same whatever the exception we identified earlier, because the get method also internally it is checking the range here. Getting the point. So any method, whatever the method we are trying to work with here, so those methods are going to work on the index related concepts. Okay. If any method is trying to work on the index related concepts here, so every method internally it is trying to check on the like range check here. So this is the range check we are calling internally. Getting the point. Now whenever I'm trying to check this, now internally it is calling the same method. So just now we discussed about this particular example. The parameter we are passing in our case as a null, and here we are having the condition. So we need to give the within the length here. If you are trying to give outside of this particular length, it's going to get an exception. Okay. So now what I will do here, I'm going to give something like a 0. Okay, something like a 0. Whenever I'm trying to give 0, now I'm getting EF, and later we are trying to print this particular all the objects here. The first one now you can see it is trying to returning single object here, al dot get. Okay, al dot get. So this is all about the get method. Whenever we are providing the index information, it is trying to give me the object which is resides inside this particular index location. Now what we need to understand here, another important method, remove method. So whenever I'm calling this particular remove method, now observe we are having two methods. So first method is expecting int index. Okay, and another method is expecting objective. Whenever we are trying to provide this particular int index here, what happens internally? It is trying to remove the current object which is resides based on this particular index here. So again, if I'm going to provide the 10, now we'll identify how this particular remove method will work. Now you can see again I'm getting an exception. Okay, because here what we are understand here, what we need to understand, the remove method now we are passing as a int value. Int value is something nothing but index here. Now you can see whenever I'm trying to pass this particular index, so again internally we are checking this. Okay, again we are checking this particular check index. Because of that we are getting an error. Now if I'm going to provide 0, what happens internally? The remove method internally it is returning string here. So why it is returning string? Why it is returning? Because whatever the object we are trying to remove, so the particular object is going to return here. So for example, I will work on the 1, and here I'm trying to print this particular removed object. So this is very important here. So which method will return something like that information we need to understand here. Now you can see the line number 12 we are trying to call it a get method, and line number 13. Now what I'm doing is I'm trying to remove the method from this particular array list. Array list is one of our collection class. Now if I'm trying to print the line number 14, only one object is printing. For example, if I want to print this, here, what happening internally? So you can see it will print first as a two records, and the second, now you can see only one record. So this is important. So this line you can see it's trying to print initially two records. Later, after calling the remove method, it is printing only one. Okay, and here I want to provide another one. So if I'm going to call size method, okay, this is important. And after this also I'm trying to print this particular size method. Now you can see the size initially it is returning true. Once we remove an object, it is trying to return as a 1 here. Okay, it is trying to return as a 1. Now what we need to understand basically, whenever we are trying to remove an object, so the size also it is decreasing. Size also it is decreasing. How we can identify how this particular size is decreasing? This is very important because array list basically it is a global nature it is having. Whenever we are adding an element, automatically it will increase. Whenever we are trying to decrease, it is automatically it is decreasing the values here. Okay, it is decreasing this particular values here. So this is all about the one of the important information we need to understand from this particular array list. Now, whenever I'm trying to open this, now we are checking it. So this condition will satisfy. After satisfy, we are trying to store the data inside this particular element data. Okay, now we understand this. So that value I'm trying to store into this particular ES. Now you can see, now here what I'm doing is, based on this index, whatever the index we are providing, based on this particular index, now what we are doing is, we are trying to load the old value. Okay, the old value basically it is a E type because it is a, we are trying to work on the element here. So something like a string. And after this, now what I'm doing is fast remove. Okay, we are calling the fast remove. But here, this old value, why I'm loading from here? Why I'm loading from this particular object information? Because I want to return this. Okay, I want to return this here. So whenever I want to return, first only I'm trying to load. Later I'm calling this particular fast remove method. Now you can see. So this is the object array we are passing, and this is the index. Okay, this is the index here. Whenever we are doing like this, now you can see this is the new size. Just we are declaring the one variable, and it is a final variable. Now observe carefully. Now what I'm doing it because of this. So you can see size minus 1. Size minus 1, because here we are trying to remove one object. Whenever I'm trying to remove the one object, so size minus 1, what is the size we are having currently? 2. Now what happens internally? Size minus 1, it's become 1. Okay, the new size how much we are having? 1. So whenever we are initializing this particular size as a 1, I'm checking if the new size greater than of I. Okay, so if the new size greater than of I, what happening internally? We are calling array copy. Okay, so whenever we are calling this particular array copy, what we need to understand here, so it is going to like replace the indexes information. Okay, it is going to replace this particular indexes information. So how it is going to replace? For example, I am having this object here. So like 0, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so here I can write. Now, what we need to understand, I'm trying to remove this particular third record. Whenever I'm trying to remove this particular third record because of this particular array copy, now what it will do? So from the fourth onwards, it will try to replace the indexes here. Okay, it is trying to replace this particular indexes here. Now you can see the fourth value, now it is replaced with the 3. So same way 4 and 5. Okay, this is happens whenever we are calling this particular line number 673. So now what we need to understand, but what we are passing here, I, the I value we are passing as a 1. Okay, so this condition, in our case, this condition is not going to satisfy. Whenever it is not going to satisfy, directly now what I am doing is new size is equals to size. Okay, here now you can see we are using the single equals whenever we are using. So we already aware of it, this right side value. Now it is going to store into this particular left side. So whenever we are doing this, now what happens internally? New size. What is the new size? We are getting 1. And inside this particular first index location, we are trying to make as a null. Okay, we are trying to make as this particular null value. Now what we can understand, the whatever the something like we have AB, this AB is going to replace with null. Getting the point? This is one of the important information we need to understand. So when we are making null, the original object is no longer available. Okay, this is the remove method internally it is working. So let me debug the code so that we can understand how this particular method it is going to work internally. Now again, where we are having line number 15, we are having the remove method. Okay, now I'm calling this remove method here. Now the cursor is stopped here. Now observe carefully, because of this particular get, this the value we are printing, and something like AL, currently how many elements we are having, it is printing, and size. So this is the size we are printing as a 2. Now I'm calling the remove, and what I am passing is 1. So whenever I'm trying to pass this, what is the how this particular value it is going to store? So 0 EF 1 AB. Okay, now you can see here 0 in the 0 index location, it is trying to print as a EF, and in the first index location, it is trying to print as a AB. Okay, this is we need to understand very carefully here. So once we add this, now what happens internally? I am going to explain what happening internally, the remove method. Now you can see, so we don't want to check this particular check index. We already aware of it, like internally how these particular conditions are working. Now directly I'm moving into this particular section, whatever the element data we are having. How many records we are having? EF, EF as well as AB. So and the second record, now you can see, so 0 and 1 we are having the values, and remaining 2 to 9 null, because we did not initialize any, like we did not insert any new records here. Only 2 records we inserted here. Getting the point? Only the particular 2 records. So after this, so all the data I'm trying to store into this particular ES. So whenever I'm trying to store this, now observe carefully. So this is the old value I'm loading it. What is the index I'm providing? 1. Okay, what is the index I'm providing? 1. Based on this particular index 1, because the ES is nothing but object type here. The object array we are having. So from this particular object array, based on this particular index, it will try to load the one record, and I'm trying to converting into this particular E. So now, what is the old value we are having? AB. So here you can see AB we are getting. This is all about the old value. Now I'm calling this particular fast remove. Here I'm passing this particular object array, and here I'm trying to pass the index. So right now index 1, and this is the element data we are having with the 2 records. Okay, EF and AB. Now whenever I'm trying to go inside this particular fast remove method, we are increasing the mod count, and we are checking the size. Okay, this is very important. Now what we can do, new size is equals to size minus 1. Whenever we are making like this, what happens internally? The size here, the new size here 1, and we are going to check the condition. So 1 greater than 1. Condition will false here. So whenever the condition will false, it will not go inside this particular line. Directly it will come back to this. Okay. Now you can see I'm trying to check this. So whenever I'm trying to identify this, now observe carefully. Okay, this line is not executed because whatever the condition we provided here, this particular condition is no longer satisfied. So is no longer satisfied this. Now what is the new size? 1. Now what is the old size? What is the old size we are having? 2. Now what I'm doing it, I'm trying to replace first. Okay, first I'm trying to replace. The new size, now it is going to modified with this particular, the original size here. Okay, now it is become 1. Once it is completed, in the first index location. Okay, in the first index location, we are going to make as a null. So once I come out of this, now if you use this ES, so now you can see the AB, now it is inserted with the null. So how it is inserted here? We are having null here, and we are using the single equal. Getting the point? This is important. So this is a way we are trying to decreasing our size as well as we are trying to remove the object from this particular object array. Okay. This is all about the simple example on the remove method, and finally this is the old value. Okay, what is the old value? AB. AB. Now if you see this particular element data will contain only one record. That's something like EF. So there is no other record. All the records are right now empty. All the records right now null. Okay, so this is we need to understand here. Now finally I'm trying to remove the A value. Whatever the object is removed, it is returning here, and I'm trying to print the original array list object. Only one record we are having. And finally size, because the size also we modified here. Now we are getting the size as a 1. Earlier it is showing as a 2. Now it is replaced with this particular 1. Okay, this is important. For example, if I'm going to use multiple records, what happens internally? Okay, if I'm going to use, what happens internally? Now I'm going to call same remove method I'm calling it. Now I'm moving again inside this particular remove method. I'm not going to check the condition because right now how many elements we are having? Now you can see these are all the elements here. So 0 to 5, 4. 0 to 4 we inserted. Now it is something like 5 records we are having. Okay, 5 record we inserted into inside this particular array list. Whenever I'm trying to insert this particular 5 records, now what we need to understand here? What we need to understand here? So I'm going to load the particular value. The first 2 record value I'm trying to load. Same value I'm loading here AB. Now what we can do? Here I'm trying to remove from this particular first remove. Okay, index I'm passing as a 1, and this is the original element data we are having. Now I'm moving inside this. Now if you see, what is the size? Okay, what is the size we are having? Size is 5. Okay, size is 5. 0 to 4 is nothing but 5 records. So once we add this particular 5 records, now what we can do? Here I'm doing the minus 1. So size minus 1, 4. Okay, new size is 4. So I'm trying to use the greater than operator. So what is the I we are having right now? 1. Now it is condition is satisfying here. The condition is satisfying here. So now you can see 4 greater than of 1. It is going to satisfy. Once it is satisfied, now what we are doing is we are going to call this particular 673 line. Whenever we are calling this particular 673, now what we need to understand basically, we need to identify this is the object array we are passing I plus 1. What is the I plus 1? Now it is become 2 because I value we are having 1, and this is the one more object array, and here I'm passing I, and this is the new size minus I. So these many parameters we are passing. Getting the point? These many parameters we are passing. Now we need to understand what exactly it is doing internally. So if you see, I'm calling array copy method, and I'm moving inside this particular array copy. So if you observe earlier, this method is not called. Now only this particular method is called. Okay, so you will understand how it is working internally. Ayyo. Okay, because of this particular native method, we could not understand the implementation. So because of that, it is coming out of this. Okay, so basically what we can do here, now you can read this method so that we can easily understand what it will do. So something like object to source directory, and from where we want to start this position, source position, and this is the destination and destination position, and length here, and length here. So this is very important. Now from the source we are going to copy into this particular destination. We are copying into this particular destination. Now you can see this particular ES is now modified here. This particular ES, so 0 to 4. Okay, 0 to 4 we are having, and what we need to understand here, what is the new size we are having? 4. So inside this particular 4, I'm trying to store into this particular size. The fourth one, now it is going to make as a null. The fourth one, now you can see we are making as a null. Okay, whenever we are making the null, this size we are not going to consider. Up to 0 to 3, we are going to consider. Okay, so this is whenever we are providing multiple values. Whenever we are trying to provide this particular multiple values, now it is going to replace like this. It is going to replace like this. Okay, so finally I am trying to return the old value. Now you can see size we are having 5. Now the size will going to provide as a 4. Okay, again the size we are going to get as a 4. So now what I will do here, I am going to make something like a now we can easily understand. So what is the object we are trying to remove? So I am not going to call. So this particular set method. Set method basically it is replacing the value. Okay. Now we'll understand one more time. Now observe carefully. So what is the value I'm trying to remove? 1. So what exactly the index is going to have? Okay, here I can see the 1. The AB, now it is replaced with this particular CD. Now you can see what happening internally. So AB is the 0 index location and CD is the first index location. So whenever I'm calling this particular first index location, how this particular values are removing it based on this particular remove here. Okay, initially 5 and this CD we are trying to remove, and the CD is the second position. So the CD is no longer available. Okay, the CD is no longer available and the remaining values we are having. Whenever I'm trying to providing the position, so this I, the like index here, it is trying to remove. And another method what we are having, something like object here. So object is nothing but we can pass all the objectives. So let me a dot remove, and this is the another object we can provide objective. So something like ij. Okay, I'm going to pass this particular ij. Now we need to understand what is the remove method is returning boolean. So something like the object is removed or not, how we can identify based on this particular true or false. Based on this particular true or false. Now if I'm going to run this, now we'll try to debug the code regarding this particular remove method. So earlier we discussed about the another remove method. Now we are discussing so one more remove method. Now you can see again I'm loading the data. Okay, I'm loading the data and this is the current size. What is the size I'm having right now? 5. Okay, I'm making into this particular size here. Finally, I'm trying to providing this particular int I is equals to 0. Okay, and here what I'm doing here, I'm trying to checking this particular O. Whatever this particular O, if it is null, what we can do? So this particular section is going to pass. Otherwise, this section code is going to execute here. Now you can see. So this is not a null here. What we are passing ij. Here you can see O. So in the right side section, now you can see the O we are passing as a ij. So this is not a null. Now we'll move on to the else section. Okay, else section. So the initialization we did not add it. Why we did not add it this? Because here we define the initialization section. Okay, whenever we are trying to use for the both cases, I define only the common place. I'm using here as well as here also. Getting the point. This is we already discussed regarding this particular example. Now what we need to understand here, once this particular size, what is the right now size? 5. How many times this particular loop is going to repeat here? 5 times. But if you observe carefully, here I am calling this particular break. Here I am calling this particular break here. Getting the point. This is very important here. Whenever I'm trying to use this particular break, after this I'm using the one naming. So it's like a one label we are using. This particular label also we discuss here. Okay. So this particular label also we discussed in the last session. Now what happens internally? Because of this particular label, the loop is going to stop here. Once the loop is going to stop here, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to call the same the fast remove method. Same the fast remove method, and we'll remove the element from this particular I location. Okay. What is an I? The I is going to update it based on this particular loop. The I, it is going to update it based on this particular loop here. Okay. This is important, we need to understand regarding this particular remove method. Now we'll see what happens internally. So equal method is not matching. One more time it is repeating the loop. Now it is not matching. So third iteration is checking, not matched here. Fourth iteration is checking, not matched here. And fifth iteration. So now it is matched. Okay. Fifth iteration, it is matched. So whenever it is matched here, what happens internally? It will come out of this particular loop. It will come out of this particular loop. Whenever it is coming out of this particular loop, now we need to understand it. What happens internally? It is called this particular fast to remove. Okay. Now you can see it is trying to remove the ij. Because what we are passing here? 5. Whenever we are passing this particular I value as a 5, what happens internally? We need to understand this 5. Okay. We need to understand this particular 5. And here, so size minus 1, 4. Okay. 4. Whenever we are making this particular 4, what happens internally? Condition will not satisfy. Because I value is a 5 and new size we are having 4. Again, this particular statement is not going to match. Finally, we are removing this. Okay. Remove is nothing but we are making the null value. Now you can see here, you can easily understand the last record, like fourth record, we are getting as a null. Okay. This is the another method we are discussing here. So see, so the object like collection related remove method is having the different logic, and the list related remove method is having different logic. Okay. This is we need to understand very carefully. So any questions regarding this particular remove method, what we discussed, the two remove methods here?
A1 add as lane, sir. Array list, sir. 9th place, sir.
అదే ఇక్కడ నేను ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేశాను ఇక్కడ ఒక అరే లిస్ట్. ఈ రెఫరెన్స్ వేరియబుల్ ఏఎల్ అనేది. సో దీని రెఫరెన్స్ బేస్ చేసుకొని మనం ఇక్కడ మెథడ్ని కాల్ చేస్తున్నాం. మనం ఫస్ట్ నుంచి అదే డిస్కస్ చేసుకుంటున్నాం. స్టాటిక్ మెథడ్ కాకపోతే ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేసి కాల్ చేయాలి.
A1 అంటే అరే లిస్టే కదా సార్?
A1 కాదు, ఇది ఏఎల్. ఏఎల్ అంటే ఇది అరే లిస్ట్.
ఓకే ఓకే.
అరే లిస్ట్ ఇది రెఫరెన్స్. ఇక్కడ ఈ రెఫరెన్స్ ఎక్కడి నుంచి వస్తుంది అంటే బేసిక్గా మనం డిస్కస్ చేస్తాం కదా. సో హీప్ మెమరీలో ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తాము. ఏ ఆబ్జెక్ట్? అరే లిస్ట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తాను. ఈ అరే లిస్ట్ రెఫరెన్స్ ఎలా యాక్సెస్ చేస్తున్నాము అంటే ఈఎల్ ప్రకారంగా. ఓకే. సో నా ఈఎల్ ఏం చేస్తుంది? దీన్ని బేస్ చేసుకొని ఆ మెథడ్స్ కాల్ చేసుకో. ఎక్కడ ఉంటాయి ఆ మెథడ్స్ అన్ని? ఈ క్లాస్లో డిఫైన్ చేసిన మెథడ్ని మనం కాల్ చేస్తున్నాము. సేమ్ లైక్ స్ట్రింగ్ క్లాస్ ఎలా కాల్ చేస్తాము, బాక్స్ క్లాస్ ఎలా కాల్ చేస్తాము, ఓకే, ద బాక్స్ రైట్ షిప్మెంట్ ఏవైతే కాల్ చేసామో సేమ్ అలాగే అరే లిస్టింగ్ కాల్ చేస్తున్నాము. కాకపోతే ఏంటంటే ఈ అరే లిస్ట్లో డిఫరెంట్ మెథడ్స్ ఉన్నవి. వాటిని ఒక్కొక్క పర్పస్గా మనం కాల్ చేస్తుంటాం. ఇక్కడ చూస్తే ఇప్పుడు చెక్ చేసుకుంటే రిమూవ్ మెథడ్ ఇదొక వేలో ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేసాము, అండ్ ఇదొక వేలో ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేసాం. ఓకే. ఈ రెండింటికి డిఫరెంట్ లాజిక్ ఉంది మనకి ఇక్కడ. సో ఏఎల్ డాట్ రిమూవ్ మెథడ్ ఇది ఆబ్జెక్ట్ తీసుకుంటుంది, ఇక్కడ ఇంట్ పారామీటర్ తీసుకుంటుంది. కానీ ఇంటర్నల్గా లాజిక్ అనేది డిఫరెంట్గా లైక్ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయడం జరిగింది. ఇక్కడ చూస్తే ఫస్ట్ దీన్ని చెక్ చేసుకుంటున్నాము. దాని తర్వాత ఆ ఒరిజినల్ వాల్యూని లోడ్ చేస్తున్నాను బేస్డ్ ఆన్ దిస్ ఇండెక్స్. ఆ వాల్యూని లోడ్ చేస్తున్నాను. తర్వాత ఏదైతే ఇండెక్స్ ఉందో దాని ద్వారా నేను డైరెక్ట్గా ఈ మెథడ్ని కాల్ చేసి ఆ స్పెసిఫైడ్ లొకేషన్లో ఉన్న ఆబ్జెక్ట్ని రిమూవ్ చేసేస్తున్నాను. ఓకే. అండ్ ఇక్కడ చూసుకుంటే ద 15లో డిఫైన్ చేసిన మెథడ్ ఏం చేస్తున్నాము, ఈ లూప్ ద్వారా కండిషన్ రాశాను. అంటే చెక్ చేసుకుంటున్న ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ఎప్పుడైతే మ్యాచ్ అవుతుందో మ్యాచ్ అయిన వెంటనే ఆ లూప్ నేను బ్రేక్ చేసేస్తున్నాను, స్టాప్ చేసేస్తున్నాను. తర్వాత ఆ వచ్చిన ఐ వాల్యూ ఏదైతే ఐ వాల్యూ ఉంటుందో దాన్ని బేస్ చేసుకొని నేను అదే మెథడ్ని కాల్ చేస్తాను, ఫాస్ట్ రిమూవ్ మెథడ్ని. ఇంటర్నల్గా ఆ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అనేది ఆ ఇండెక్స్ లొకేషన్ నుంచి రిమూవ్ అయిపోతుంది. ఓకే, సో ఇది బులియన్ రిలేటెడ్ మెథడ్కి ఏమో ఈ లాజిక్ రాసాము, అండ్ సో ఇండెక్స్ రిలేటెడ్ దానికేమో సో సింపుల్గా ఆ వాల్యూని లోడ్ చేసేస్తున్నాను ఇండెక్స్ బేస్ చేసుకొని, తర్వాత సింపుల్గా డైరెక్ట్ కాల్ చేసేస్తున్నాను. ఓకే, సో నా ఇఫ్ యూ అబ్జర్వ్ ఇండెక్సెస్ బేస్డ్ అన్న ఏవైతే ఆపరేషన్స్ ఉన్నాయో అవి చాలా ఫాస్ట్గా పనిచేస్తాయి, ఎందుకంటే డైరెక్ట్గా ఆ ఇండెక్స్ లొకేషన్స్కి వెళ్తావి, అక్కడి నుంచి ఆబ్జెక్ట్ లోడ్ చేస్తాయి. ఇప్పుడు చూస్తే చిన్న ఎగ్జాంపుల్, ఇక్కడ నేను ఏం చేస్తాను, ఇండెక్స్ పాస్ చేస్తాను, ఆ వాల్యూని లోడ్ చేశాను. సో ఇదే ఎగ్జాంపుల్ నేను ఇక్కడ ఈ రిమూవ్ మెథడ్ చూస్తే ఇక్కడ లూప్ రాశాను. ఓకే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ 100 రికార్డ్స్ ఉన్నాయి అనుకోండి, ఈ లూప్ 99 టైమ్స్ రిపీట్ అవుతూనే ఉంటుంది. ఓకే, సో 90 టైమ్స్ రిపీట్ అయ్యి చెక్ చేసుకుంటుంది, ఎప్పుడు సాటిస్ఫై అయితే అప్పుడు ఆగిపోతుంది ఆ బ్రేక్. ఓకే, కానీ ఇక్కడ ఎప్పుడైతే ఈ రిమూవ్ మెథడ్ ఇండెక్స్ పాస్ చేశానో డైరెక్ట్గా ఇంకా మనకి ఇక్కడ రిపీట్ అనేది ఏం లేదు, డైరెక్ట్గా ఇండెక్స్ ఇచ్చాను, వాల్యూ లోడ్ చేసేస్తుంది. ఓకే, సో ఇండెక్స్ రిలేటెడ్ సెక్షన్స్ ఏమున్నా చాలా ఫాస్ట్గా వర్క్ అవుతాయి. ఓకే, ఇది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలి, ఎందుకంటే డైరెక్ట్గా ఆ స్పెసిఫైడ్ లొకేషన్కి వెళ్ళిపోతాము, ఆ వాల్యూని లోడ్ చేయడమో డిలీట్ చేయడమో ఏదో ఒక ఆపరేషన్ జరిగిపోతుంది. ఓకే, సో ఇంకేమైనా క్వశ్చన్సా? బట్ ఇది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. ఈ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ అర్థమైతే ఇంకా రిలేటెడ్గా కలెక్షన్ రిలేటెడ్ డిఫరెంట్ క్లాసెస్ చాలా క్లాసెస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఆ క్లాసెస్ ఈజీగా అర్థమవుతాయి, లేదంటే చాలా కష్టం. Okay, so this is the differences we identified. Remove method. Now whenever I'm calling add all method, how this particular add all it is going to work. So to work on this particular add all, now I'm going to create one more collection. Okay, one more collection I'm going to create. So something like here I will copy this one more array list here, and here I'm going to make as a AL2. Okay, AL2 I'm calling. Now whenever I'm calling this AL2, now you can see AL2 dot add all. Okay, this is the method I'm calling add all method. Now it is expecting only one parameter. I'm passing AL. Okay, I'm passing this particular AL. So after this, if I'm going to print this particular AL2, if I'm going to print this particular AL2, now what we need to understand here, now you can see, so we are getting an exception, index is 5 out of specified. Okay, something like because of this I hope we are getting an error. Okay, I'll comment at this, and as well as this also I'm going to comment it. Because of this particular remove method we are getting an exception. Okay, the first one is already removed an object again, so in the fifth index location we are trying to remove one more time, so the specified index value no longer available. Okay, now observe carefully. Now what happening internally, what you understand basically. So this is the simple object. Yes, it's a simple one. So basically we created one array list object and we inserted this particular value. Now what I'm doing is by calling this particular add all at a time, how many records we have inserted into this particular AL, all the records I'm trying to insert into another object here. Okay, so another object. Now if you see, first object we created this, second object with help of this particular first object I'm trying to, it's like a copying here, one object into another object we are copying. But if we observe internally how it is calling this, okay, this is important here. So first we are calling in to array. Okay, so we are calling c dot to array. Again we are getting this particular object array values, and after this I am trying to find out the length, and if the length is equals to 0, we are returning false. Okay, otherwise again here I am trying to make some condition. So you can see in this particular if condition we are having these many information. So what you need to understand, first we need to understand this. Now what I'm doing is, whatever the right side information we are having, the information now I'm trying to store into this particular elementary data, and later I'm calling this particular length. Okay, later I'm calling this particular length. And another important information what we need to understand here, we need to understand the size. The size I'm trying to store into this particular S, and I'm doing the subtraction here. When the subtraction will there, again we are checking this here. So if it is greater than, we are calling this particular grow. Otherwise, we are going to call this particular copy of, and we are increasing the size. Okay. So this is the default add all method, which is coming from the our collection interface, because collection interface is trying to returning true or false. So if it is zero, the new length, it is return false. Otherwise, it will try to return the true value. Okay. So now one more add all method we are having. Now what we can do, this particular add all method. Okay. So this is another important information. Okay. If I observe one more add all method I'm calling, and al2 dot add all method, and here we are having two parameters. Okay. The above one, it is having only one parameter. The below one, we are having two parameters. Now if we observe carefully, whenever we are trying to provide this particular two parameters, now what we can do, we need to provide the indexes here. Okay. For example, if I'm going to give the index 10, what happens internally? So we need to check so whether they are trying to check the range, like a index related checking or not. Okay. And we'll see this particular AL I'm going to call. And first we'll see the check information. Now you can see range check for add method. Okay. Range check for this particular add method. And now you can see any differences we are having? Nothing. Most of the code is same. Okay. Most of the code is same here. Whatever we identified, first we are loading the object array, mod count, and something length here. If the length is 0, returning false. And here we are doing the initialization and subtraction. And default we are calling the grow method if the condition will satisfy. Otherwise, let's move on to this section code. Okay. But here, what we are doing is, we are trying to call this particular array copy based on this particular index here. Based on this particular index. This is only the differences we are having. Now if you see, I hope below, yeah, here only. So here we are providing the 0. Okay, here we are providing this particular 0, and here we are providing the index. So this is only the differences here. Based on the index we are going to copy, and here in the 0 index location, like it's going to start from the 0 index onwards. Okay, remaining everything is same. Okay, so whatever the code we are having, everything is same. So this is the add all. Basically, at a time we are going to provide the multiple objects here. It will try to copy into the another object here. Okay, this is the purpose of this particular add all method. So any questions regarding this particular add all? Okay, now if I'm going to run this, we are getting an exception because we identify it's trying to check the range check here. Okay, so once this particular range check is satisfied, then only it will copy all the element. For example, now I'm going to provide something like 4, something like 4. Now you can see if I'm going to run, what happening internally. First of all, I'm trying to print AL2. Here now you can see I'm trying to print this particular AL2. Okay, and later I'm trying to print this particular AL. So inside this particular AL, what happens here? 2 times we copy here. First line number 18 we are copying, and the line number 20, like 19 also we are copying. Because of this, so it is getting as a 2 records here. Okay, it is getting as a 2 records here. Now you can see, so A2 GH, and it is again started GH here. So INJ. Because of this particular 4th index location, whenever we are getting this particular INJ, now in place of this particular INJ, it is replaced with this particular message. and the last element is added as it is here. Getting the point? This is important here. Okay, so this is very important information we need to understand. So what happening internally? I will give you the diagram so that we can easily understand here. So this is the 0 and 1, 2, 3 and 4. So and okay, 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what is the in the 0 index location we are having AB and something like CD and something like EF and GH and IJ. Okay, these are all the values. Now, with the help of this particular line number 19, now what I am doing here. So, fourth index. What is the fourth index? This is the fourth index, right? Now, whenever we are trying to call this particular add all, what is the value I am trying to copy? This AL. What is the AL it contain? These are all the objects. Okay, these are all the objects. This particular object now it is trying to insert into this particular fourth index. So, once it is indexed, it will look like this. So the end I'm not adding it. So I will give you some space so that we can easily understand how it is trying to insert the values here. Okay, here I'm going to provide AB and here I'm trying to providing CD and here I'm trying to EF and the final record GH. Okay, in place of IJ, what happens internally? Because what we are doing in the fourth index location, I'm trying to call this AL values. The AL values will contain, these are all the records here. Okay, these are all the records here. So this particular records, now it is going to insert it into this particular fourth index. Again, it will start like this, AB and CD. Okay, again, it is going to start with the EF and GH and finally, so it is having, so two more here, so something like IJ. This is this up to from here, whatever we are trying to copy this up to here, this is stored in the fourth index location. Fourth index location is nothing but from the fourth index location onwards, it will try to insert the value. Okay, it will insert the value. So now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 again it is replaced with these values 4, 5, 6 and 7, 8 and finally 9. Okay, because in place of this particular I and J, now it is trying to store in the ninth index location. Getting the point? In place of this particular fourth, what we did basically, we inserted these values here. So from AB to IJ, and whatever this particular same value, it is now ended, like it is inserted in the end of this particular array list. So this is the size. The current size is this much. Now if I'm going to print this, now we can easily understand the size here. So what is the size we can print here? Something like AL2. Okay, AL2 I'm going to print. If I'm going to print this AL2, now you can easily understand the size. So 10. The AL size is 10. How now it has become 10 or not? Here you can see the size here. So 0 to 9. 0 to 9 is nothing but 10 only. But initially, what is the size? 5. Initially, it is 5. So AB to IJ, like 0 to 4. Initially, it is the 5. Whenever we copy, copy this particular value, now the size is increased to 10 here. Now, what you understand here? Internally, even though whenever we are providing the index here, from the index, the specified index onwards, it is trying to copy the all the elements here. Okay. So this is the important information we need to understand here. Okay. So any questions now? After seeing this particular diagram, anyone having any questions? Okay, so if we don't have anything, now what I will do, so I'm going to provide this Let me clear this. Where is this? Okay, so what are all the different methods we are having? Now we'll try to identify here. Now you can see this two array we already identified internally. It is trying to converting as a object array. So otherwise we can call this. So here I'm going to call after printing this al2 dot 2 array. This al2 dot 2 array, now it is converting into the object array. And after this, now what I will do, I'm going to print the values one by one. Okay, so how I'm trying to print here? Now I'm going to print like this because the type we are having object here, and ARR I'm providing the local variable, and here I'm going to provide as a array. Okay, whenever I'm trying to providing array, now I'm going to print as a ARR. So whenever I'm trying to print, right now how many records we are having? All the records I'm trying to print here. Okay, so how many records we are having? All the records I'm trying to print here. So from AB to IJ. If you're not interested with the next line, now what we can do? So we can try to print on the same line with some space here. Some space. Now you can see it is trying to print on the single line. These are all the values. AB, something like this. Okay. So this is all about the to array method internally. What is doing here? It is trying to converting as an object array. So that whatever the value we are having, all the values we can identify here. We can identify these are all the values here. Getting the point. This is another important method we are having to convert the array list objects into this particular object array. Now how it is converting this? So just simply they are calling copy of this particular element data and size. So from where we are moving? Arrays class. Okay. Inside this particular arrays class we are having copy of method. This is the import example we need to understand how this particular arrays.copy of it's working internally. Okay, so anyone having any questions regarding this array copy method? Okay, now what we need to understand here, another important method. Yeah, insertion order is same basically. So this is an important question. If we observe carefully how we are inserting the value with help of this particular arrays, how the values we are going to insert like this. Like first we'll insert in the 0, later we'll insert in the 1, later we'll insert in the 2. So it's keep on, it will increase. So that how we are inserting the value, the same way we are going to get here. The same way we are going to get this particular value. So if we observe, I'm not going to write this, all the codes I'm going to comment out, except this. Okay, right now just I'm inserting the value A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I, J. Now you can see we are getting the same order. Okay, you can see here the first record is this, second record is this, third and fourth and fifth. So same thing you can see. Okay, we are getting in the same order. So I explained here earlier only, the list will give you the insertion order here. How we are going to insert here, same way only we are going to get because of the array concept. Because of this particular array concept internally, we are going to get information. Okay, so this is all about the simple example what we discussed here. Now we'll identify here remove method we identify, add method we identify, contains all. So basically contains all method what it will do, it is going to check whatever the object we are having, whether these objects are available or not, it is going to check here. Now to understand this, now what I will do here, I'm going to call first al dot not al, al2 dot I'm going to call add all I'm going to call, here I'm going to pass al. Okay, now I'm copying all the object into al2, and after this al dot contains is a one object, and contains all we are going to pass as a multiple object. Now you can see, so if condition, if I'm going to write this inside this particular if, we can print all objects are same. So otherwise what we can do, we'll print this particular else section not same. Simply I'm trying to write as a not same here. Okay, now you can see what happens internally, all objects are same. Okay, I'm trying to get all objects are same. Basically just we are checking here how we are checking this particular values. Now if you see, this is the al array, okay, and this is the al2 array, and each and every object we are going to check inside this particular al and al2 here. Now we'll see the code how it is going to work internally. Now you can see like what we need to check here. Now you can see simply we are calling this particular contains method. Okay, so to understand this particular contains all, what we need to understand? We need to understand this particular contains method. How it is calling internally? This is the loop we are we are calling within this particular loop. Okay, this is the for each loop we are implementing. Now finally, now I'm calling this particular contains method. We are calling this iterator, and we are calling this particular if it is null. Okay, now you can see from where we are moving, abstract collection. This particular code is implemented inside this particular abstract collection. But which class we are discussing? Right now we are discussing array list. Getting the point? This is the array list class. Okay, now if you say this directly, whenever I'm trying to call this, where we are moving. Okay, whenever I'm calling this particular contains all, so it is not going to check inside this particular array list. Now it is moving on to the abstract collection. Abstract collection is the one of the abstract class we implemented, and this is the method it is calling, because this method it is not yet implemented inside the array list class. Okay, we'll see this particular method in the tomorrow. We'll debug the code and how it is going to work internally. We'll try to identify it. Okay, so as of now, any questions here? Whatever the method we discuss here, the like a set method, remove method, add all method.
సార్ 10th ప్లేస్లో వాల్యూ కూడా యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు కదా సార్ మామూలుగా
10th place లో
వాల్యూ యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు కదా సార్
ఏ values?
అనుకుంటా ఏదైనా ఒక 5, 6 ఏదైనా అనుకుంటే ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఏవి యూజ్ చేసుకున్నారు అట్లా
లేదు ఇక్కడ నువ్వు అబ్జర్వ్ చేయాలి. ఇక్కడ ఇది నేను అందుకే చెప్పా, ఇక్కడ ఏంటి జనరిక్ టైప్ ఒకటి ఇక్కడ యూజ్ చేశాను ఇక్కడ. సో మన జనరిక్ రిలేటెడ్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ డిస్కస్ చేసుకున్నప్పుడు ఇక్కడ నేను సింపుల్ గా చెప్పా కదా, టీ సంథింగ్ ఆర్ సంథింగ్ లైక్ జెడ్, ఇలాంటి జనరిక్ టైప్ మనం డిస్కస్ చేసాం. ఓకే, సేమ్ ఇక్కడ ఏంటంటే అరే లిస్ట్ క్లాస్ లో ఈ అనే ఒక టైప్ ఇక్కడ వాడుతున్నాం. సో ఈ అంటే బేసిక్గా ఎలిమెంట్ టైప్ ఇయర్. ఈ ఎలిమెంట్ అనేది మనం ఏదన్నా క్లాస్ వర్క్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. దాంట్లో నేను స్ట్రింగ్ ఇచ్చాను. సో స్ట్రింగ్ బదులు ఇంటిజర్ యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, లాంగ్ యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, ఓకే, డబుల్ యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, అండ్ ఎనీ కస్టమ్ క్లాసెస్ లైక్ బాక్స్ క్లాస్ యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, పర్సన్ యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, ఓకే, మెంబర్ యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, ఎనీ క్లాస్. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ ఏంటంటే మన రిస్ట్రిక్షన్స్ అనేది ఏది లేదు ఇంకా. సో ఈ బదులు ఇక్కడ రాసిన ఏ క్లాస్ అయినా యూజ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. ఓకే, ఈ కరెంట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్కి మాత్రం నేను ఇక్కడ స్ట్రింగ్ యూజ్ చేశాను. సో అందుకు స్ట్రింగ్ రిలేటెడ్ వాల్యూ ప్రొవైడ్ చేయాలి. అండ్ ఇక్కడ నేను ప్రొవైడ్ చేసిన వాల్యూ, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ నేను ఇక్కడ కాల్ చేశాను అనుకో ఏఎల్ డాట్ యాడ్, ఇక్కడ ఇంటీజర్ నెంబర్ ఇచ్చా. నా యూ కెన్ సి ఎర్రర్ వస్తుంది నాకు ఇక్కడ. ఓకే, ఇంటీజర్ వాల్యూ తీసుకోదు. ఎందుకు తీసుకోదు అంటే ఇక్కడ ఇచ్చిన ఎలిమెంట్ టైప్ ఏంటిది, స్ట్రింగ్ ఇచ్చా. సో ఆ స్ట్రింగే మనం ప్రొవైడ్ చేయాలి. ఇది ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఇక్కడ. నేను అందుకనే ముందే జనరిక్ కాన్సెప్ట్ డిస్కస్ చేసాం. ఓకే, మనం ముందే స్ట్రింగ్ డిఫైన్ చేసాం కాబట్టి స్ట్రింగ్ వాల్యూమ్ ప్రొవైడ్ చేయాలి. సో ఇంటీజర్ వాల్యూస్కి లాంగ్ వాల్యూస్కి తీసుకోదు. ఎందుకు తీసుకోదు అంటే ఇక్కడ ఎర్రర్ చూస్తే the method add int comma string in the type is string. Okay, so is not applicable for the argument call int. సో బేసికల్గా ఇది ఇలా ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేస్తుంది ఇంట్ కామా స్ట్రింగ్, బట్ ఓన్లీ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇచ్చాను నేను. ఓకే, ఓన్లీ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇచ్చాను. స్ట్రింగ్ బదులు సారీ ఓన్లీ ఇంటే ఇచ్చాను. ఇక్కడ ఇంట్తో బదులు నేను ఇంకా స్ట్రింగ్ అన్న యాడ్ చేయి, లేదు అంటే స్ట్రింగ్ అన్న యాడ్ చేయి. సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ నేను ఫాల్స్ ఇచ్చా. ఓకే, ఫాల్స్ ఇచ్చా. ఎప్పుడైతే నేను ఫాల్స్ ఇచ్చానో నౌ యూ కెన్ సి ద మెథడ్ యాడ్ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇన్ ద టైప్ కాల్ అరేలీ స్ట్రింగ్. సో యాడ్ అనే మెథడ్ స్ట్రింగ్ ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేస్తుంది, కానీ మనం ఏం పాస్ చేసాం, ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ అప్లికబుల్ ఫర్ ద ఆర్గ్యుమెంట్ కాల్ బులియన్. ఓకే, ఇది ఇంపార్టెంట్. సో ఈ మెథడ్ అనేది ఈ జనరిక్ టైప్ బేస్ చేసుకొని డిపెండ్ అయి ఉంటుంది. ఇక్కడ ఏదైతే డేటా టైప్ ఇస్తామో ఆ డేటా టైప్ వాల్యూస్ని మనం స్పెసిఫై చేయాలి. సో వేరే డేటా టైప్ ఇచ్చామంటే ఇలా ఎర్రర్స్ వస్తాయి. ఓకే, ఇంకేమన్నా క్వశ్చన్సా?
సార్ ఫ్లో కూడా లాంగ్ యూజ్ చేయలేం కదా సార్?
ఎక్కడి ఫ్లో నాకు అర్థం కాలేదు.
ముందు లాంగ్ యూజ్ చేయలేము, స్ట్రింగ్ మాత్రమే యూజ్ చేయగలము అని చెప్పారు.
అవును, ఇక్కడ
మాత్రమే యూజ్ చేయాలి.
అవును, ఇక్కడ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇచ్చాను కాబట్టి ఓన్లీ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషనే పాస్ చేయాలి. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇక్కడ లాంగ్ ఇచ్చానంటే లాంగ్ వాల్యూస్ పాస్ చేయాలి. సో డబుల్ ఇస్తే డబుల్ వాల్యూ. నేను అందుకనే ఈ టైప్, ఇక్కడ ఈ టైప్ అనేది చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఇది. సో ఏ కలెక్షన్ ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్ తీసుకున్నా ఇక్కడ టైప్, ఈ టైప్ బేస్ చేసుకునే అప్లికేషన్ లైక్ కలెక్షన్ అనేది రన్ అవుతుంటుంది.
ఓకే సార్.
Okay, so for your case, what I will do, I am going to create one more object here. Now I am trying to create a AL3. Here I will make as a long here. Okay, ఎప్పుడైతే నేను లాంగ్ ఇచ్చానో AL3 డాట్ యాడ్ మెథడ్, నేను ఇక్కడ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇవ్వడానికి రావాలి. నాకు ఇక్కడ నేను స్ట్రింగ్ ఇస్తే తీసుకోవట్లేదు నాకు, ఎందుకంటే లైన్ నెంబర్ 20లో ఎర్రర్ వస్తుంది. సో ఎందుకంటే డేటా టైప్ మిస్ మ్యాచ్. ఇక్కడ నేను ఏమి ఇవ్వచ్చు, ఓన్లీ లైక్ నెంబర్స్ వాల్యూస్ ఇవ్వచ్చు. ఇక్కడ ఏ వాల్యూస్ ఇచ్చినా సో తీసుకుంటుంది ఇక్కడ. కాకపోతే ఏం ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేస్తుంది అంటే ఇంట్కి కన్వర్ట్ అయిపోతుంది ఇది. ఓకే, ఇది ఇంట్కి కన్వర్ట్ అయిపోతుంది. సో ఇంట్కి కన్వర్ట్ కాకుండా ఉండాలి అంటే ఒక లాంగ్ ఇచ్చేసాను అనుకో, తీసేసుకుంటుంది. అర్థమవుతుందా? సో బై డిఫాల్ట్గా ఏదైతే వాల్యూ ఇచ్చామో కంపైలర్ ఇంట్గా ట్రీట్ చేస్తుంది ఆ వాల్యూని. మనం ఇక్కడ ఎల్ అని స్పెసిఫై చేశాను కాబట్టి కంపైలర్ నౌ ఇట్ ఈస్ ట్రైంగ్ టు ట్రీట్ యాజ్ ఏ లాంగ్ వాల్యూ. ఇది ఒక ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ లాంగ్కి అండ్ ఫ్లోట్కి. ఎప్పుడైతే లాంగ్కి అండ్ ఫ్లోట్కి ఇలాంటి వాల్యూస్ ఇస్తామో బై డిఫాల్ట్గా లైక్ ఇంట్ అండ్ డబుల్గా ట్రీట్ చేస్తుంది. సో దానికి అప్రాపరేట్ డేటా టైప్ మనం కన్వర్ట్ చేయాలన్నప్పుడు ఇట్లా ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ పర్టికులర్ వాల్యూ వి షుడ్ కమ్ అప్ విత్ లాంగ్కి అయితే ఎల్, ఫ్లోట్కి అయితే ఎఫ్ డిఫైన్ చేయాలి. లేదు అంటే అది డబుల్గా ట్రీట్ అవుతుంది, ఇక్కడేమో ఇంట్గా ట్రీట్ అవుతుంది. ఇది ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఓకే, సో నువ్వు క్యాపిటల్ ఎల్ కానీ స్మాల్ ఎల్ కానీ ఏది ఇచ్చినా తీసుకుంటుంది. సే ప్రిమిటివ్ డేటా టైప్ హోల్డ్ చేయదు, అందుకని నేను ఇక్కడ లాంగ్ ఇచ్చాను. లాంగ్ అనేది ప్రిమిటివ్ డేటా టైప్ కాదు, ఇది ఏంటంటే ఆబ్జెక్ట్ టైప్. సో లాంగ్కి ఈ లాంగ్ ఇవ్వాలి, ఈ లాంగ్ ఇస్తే ప్రిమిటివ్ టైప్ ఇది. సో నౌ యూ కెన్ సీ వీఆర్ గెటింగ్ అన్ ఎర్రర్. ఓకేనా? సో ఇక్కడ ఇచ్చింది ఏంటంటే టైప్ ఇక్కడ బేసిక్గా. సో ఇంటి బదులు నేను ఈ వాల్యూ అనేది లాంగ్ టైప్ అని ఒక హింట్ ఇస్తున్నాను నేను కంపైలర్కి. అందుకోసం నేను లాస్ట్ ఐఎమ్ ట్రైంగ్ టు యాడ్ విత్ వన్ క్యారెక్టర్ ఎల్. అది ఇంపార్టెంట్. లేదు అంటే బై డిఫాల్ట్గా ఇట్ విల్ ట్రై టు ట్రీట్ యాజ్ ఏ స్ట్రింగ్. సారీ, నాట్ string, it is treated as a int. Okay, if I'm trying to remove this, is expecting one more parameter. So now if I'm going to provide one more parameter, basically int comma long. So if I provide some value here, now I'm getting an error. Now you can see, read this. So the method is expecting int comma long, but what we are providing here int comma int. Okay, but explicitly మనం ప్రొవైడ్ చేసిన వాల్యూ ఏంటంటే int comma long కొని ఇచ్చాము, కానీ కంపైలర్ int comma int గా ట్రీట్ చేస్తుంది. సో int comma int గా ట్రీట్ చేస్తుంది. సో ఈ మెథడ్ అనేది మన దగ్గర డిఫైన్ లేదు, ఓన్లీ మనకున్న మెథడ్ ఏంటంటే int comma long ఉంది. Okay, now what we can do, I can make the last method as a L, the last parameter, if I'm going to append with the L, the error is resolved here. ఓకే, ఇది మల్టిపుల్ టైమ్స్ ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తే మనకి ఈజీగా ఒక ఐడియా వస్తుంది ఎలా వర్క్ అవుతుంది ఈ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ అనేది. ఎనీ క్వశ్చన్స్? Okay, what about you, Saddam? Do you have any questions? Okay, so if you don't have anything, now I'm going to stop the session up to here. We'll continue the remaining method tomorrow morning. So we'll try to see you in the tomorrow session.